Hello everyone. I hope you are having a fantastic day. It is beautiful outside. I know you probably can't see because of the camera, but in our house we have these big windows. You might be able to see this one, I'm not sure, but so it's kind of hard to stay focused because out of the corner of my eye, out the windows, I can just see it so beautiful. The trees are changed, the leaves have changed, and so pretty. These are quick and easy recipes, and I'm gonna be finished with them in just a little while, and then I'm gonna be out there. So that's what we're doing today. I'm coming to you again from the kitchen, and I'm working on my Thanksgiving countdown so that I'll have a stress-free Thanksgiving day. And hopefully you're doing the same thing. And so I got out my checklist, and I have a few more items that I need to get cooked up and ready for the freezer. Well, that's what we're working on today. So we're going to do dressing, and we're going to do ready for this, a pumpkin roll. So excited about the pumpkin roll. Don't be scared. I was scared at first, but they're really not that bad, and we're gonna work on that today. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. We're gonna start with the dressing. Now, I understand there are a million recipes for dressing. Everyone has different tastes, the way they like it. Some do just bread, some do cornbread. So, you know what? Just like I always say, okay? It's your kitchen, it's your dish. Do with it what you want, okay? This is just a guide. This is what we've done for years. This is my mom's recipe. We like more cornbread, so that's what we do. We take a 1 pan cornbread, cook it, and you want to get it good and done, and then you're going to break it, let it cool, break it up. You're going to put it in a bowl and let it just sit there and dry out for a couple of days. But you're going to add to that about 4 pieces of toast. You want it really crispy toast. Break that up. Let it dry with the cornbread for a couple of days. There again, if you don't like cornbread, just do it with bread. However, adjust it to what you and your family likes. Now, you will see, okay, in this bowl, I don't like my cornbread to be, or my dressing to be mushy, like mush. So there's gonna be some chunks that are a little bit larger than the other ones. Some of these are a little bit big, but they're gonna shrink as they cook. So that's our base. We've got our cornbread and our bread in here. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a 1/2 cup of chopped celery, and we're gonna add a 1/2 cup of onion. So I have the tips cut off of all these, and then I just left one to just kind of go over with some of you. Maybe you don't know how to chop celery, you've never done it before. So we're gonna take that off, okay? And for me, the easiest, what I like to do is to just save time, is I come in here and cut that in half, because you want your dices, you don't want them to be tiny, but you don't want to bite into a big chunk of celery in your dressing. So we're gonna bring those on down and make them kind of thin. Whoops. Okay, and then we're just going to chop these, okay? We just wanna do, like I said, not really tiny. And again, this is all preference. You know what? If you like big chunks, then, you know, cut them as large or small as you would like. But this is how we do it. And so I'm just showing you how we do it. So we're gonna do, I've got a little measuring cup here. When you do it enough, you can pretty much eyeball it and know what you have. But if you're not sure, and of course they're flying all over the place, but that's okay. I don't have my little beagle anymore to run around and clean up my messes. So we've got a 1/2 cup right there with one stalk of celery. We've got a half a cup. So we're gonna pour that into our dressing. And if you have a little less, a little bit more, it's gonna be fine. Now we're gonna chop up the onion. I just wanted to show you just a little tip here in case you don't know. With onions, there is a root end, okay? This end here is the root end. You wanna leave that on, because that's gonna help your onion to stay together as you chop it up. If you cut that off, then it's loose. So we're gonna leave the root end on. We've got our onion, okay? I took the onion and I just cut it in half down the middle. So it looks like this. Now, depending on how big you want your chunks, you're gonna come in with your knife and you're just going to make some cuts. all the way from one side down to the other of your onion, okay? Now, it's already layered on the inside, so all you have to do, this is just an easy way for chunks, is now you want to go across it, make your cuts, and you can see we already have a diced up onion. And again, you can adjust this to as large or small as you need. Okay, so now I've got my measuring cup, putting the onion in. All right, so now we've got a 1/2 cup of onion. So we're gonna put that in there, okay? All right, now we're gonna add 2 eggs to this. Okay, got 2 eggs. And also, my mom's recipe calls for 3 cans of chicken broth. So that's roughly 45 ounces, somewhere around there. So I start out with, I've got 4 cups here. But very, very important, don't pour all of your liquid at one time. Sometimes you might use all this, sometimes you may not. So we're gonna start out just adding a little bit of this, and then we're gonna mix it up, and then we'll keep adding it as we need it. Also, we're gonna add some salt, and I don't really have an exact measurement here. All I can say is, you know what, dressing is something that has to be tasted as you go. So just put you a little bit of salt and pepper in there, and when you get it mixed up, you can taste it and just add it to what you like. The sage is kind of the same way. Now, don't freak out, but we like a lot of sage, so I'm gonna put it in here heavy. Again, start out small, stir it up, taste it, and adjust it to how you like it. And I know you're probably freaking out because yes, there's 2 raw eggs in here. And yes, every year I make this and I taste it and I'm still living. So I think we're safe. You're not gonna eat the whole bowl. You're just gonna take a little taste to see if you have enough seasonings. Now, you can tell just by stirring this, this is way too thick. So we can go ahead and add some more of our broth into the bowl. Let's stir this up. Okay, once again, as the more you do this, the more you kind of just learn and you get a feel for it. That's not enough liquid. This bread really soaks up, and the cornbread soaks up that liquid. So we're gonna add a little bit more. Okay, stir that up. Okay, it's looking better. You don't want it to be soupy by any means, but you do want it to have a little bit of extra broth juice in there, because as it cooks, it needs something that is gonna keep it moist. You don't want your dressing to turn out dry. So I'm gonna go ahead, put the rest of that in there. And I always have a little extra on hand than what my recipe calls for, just in case I end up having to add a little bit more than what the 3 cans that it actually calls for. But this is looking really good. Okay, so we're gonna stir this up, and here comes the fun part. We get to taste it. You have to taste it. It's the only way to know where you are. So you're just gonna get a little bitty bit, enough to get a taste. See, needs more salt. So we're gonna add a little bit more salt. Now I always just do a little at a time. You can always, it's like I used to cut hair. It's like I always used to say, I don't mind going back and cutting more off, but once I cut it, I can't put it back. So we just wanna do a little bit at a time. A little bit of salt and pepper. Actually, believe it or not, needs a little bit more sage. And we just keep doing this. And also, by looking at it, I can tell that I'm gonna have to have a little bit more broth, especially because I am gonna go ahead and pre-cook this some and put it in the freezer, and then we're gonna have to reheat it. So I don't want it to be dry. So if we weren't freezing this, it would probably be good to just leave it right here. But since I'm gonna cook it and freeze it, I'm gonna add a little bit more broth and we'll stir this up and just see how this looks, and then we'll probably be good to go. But let's give it a good stir. And when you're stirring, make sure you get down in the bottom, and because you know, I don't know if that's ever happened to you, you're pouring something out of your bowl and you're like, oh my gosh, there's a big clump of flour or something in the very bottom of your bowl. So make sure that you get it stirred up good. Okay, I'm going in again. Perfecto. It is not cooked and I could eat this bowl right now. You know what? I've seen these things on Facebook that say, what if you could only pick one side, what would you pick for Thanksgiving? I couldn't. I could not pick one side. I mean, how can you have Thanksgiving without dressing, or without mashed potatoes, or without church eggs, or without broccoli casserole? Who can pick? I can't. Okay, now I have my pan ready, 13 by 9, sprayed it really good with cooking spray. So, and this will give you a good shot too. You can see the amount of juice or broth that's in there. So we are going to just put all this, and you want to get every last little drop out of this bowl, trust me. Let's get all that in there. Okay, now we'll switch places, and let's spread this around. You know, you just want to make sure that everything's even. It's not all clumped together in one place. Now, before I started, I preheated the oven to 350 degrees. So the oven is already ready to go. Normally, this is probably going to take about an hour to cook. But since I'm going to freeze it and I'm reheating, I'm probably going to cook it about 45 to 50 minutes. Take it out, let it cool completely, and then we'll wrap it up and get it ready. Wrap it with saran wrap, then with foil, put on there dressing, and it's ready for the freezer, and you can check this off your list. Okay, I'm gonna check on the dressing. It should be ready to go, and it is. Woohoo, look at that. That is deliciousness right there. So we have it out, we're gonna let it cool completely, and just a little tip, we just put a new element in our stove, and so it is really cooking good. This is a little bit farther along than I had hoped, but it's still okay. But just to say to you, you know what, check it about every 30 minutes, because you never know, everybody's oven is different. But anyways, this turned out beautiful. The raw eggs, I said that about the raw eggs. You know, a lot of people really, you know, are concerned about that. If you are, quick, easy fix. Put all your ingredients together, leave the eggs out, mix it up, taste it till you get it like you want it with your seasoning, put your eggs in, mix it up, and you're done. So just those things I wanted to share with you. Well, we're doing good. We've got our dressing all wrapped up with saran wrap, foil, labeled dressing in the freezer. Now, we're gonna move on to our pumpkin roll. Now, I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you, I'm gonna have to just follow the recipe because most of my stuff I've done enough that I kinda, you know. Got my trusty iPad here, and but this is a treat because we love this. And if I made this very often, we would be probably about as wide as this island here. So I can't, because I would literally eat the whole thing. So I'm just gonna follow the recipe because I don't know it well enough just in my head, okay? And that would be bad. So I tried to have most of my ingredients already ready, and that's really a good thing to always do. So you're not right in the middle of it and you realize you don't have something, or, you know, that's not good. So I got all my ingredients ready and we're just gonna get started. Okay, so first of all, I've got my oven preheating to 375. Now, it tells you to take a pan and we're going to flour and grease it. I've already done that just for time's sake. You're just gonna take some Crisco or butter. You can even use butter. You're gonna rub your pan down good with that and flour it. The main thing to remember is you want to make sure that you flour and grease your parchment paper. That's the trick to these roll cakes, is they cannot stick. They have to come out clean. So you want to grease the pan and your parchment paper and flour both of them separately, okay? So our pan is ready. Oven is preheating, so we're gonna start mixing. What we're gonna do is we're gonna beat our egg yolks until thick. And we need 3 egg yolks. As you can see, I only have 2 in the bowl because I just was gonna save this and show you, just for some of you maybe that don't know how to separate an egg. Now, they do have these cool little gadgets like this right here. Came from Alewind, one of my most favorite places in the world. You'll see this, actually, you can crack your egg in here. You can pour the white out of this side and the yellow stays in the bowl. So that's an option. Or if you don't have anything like that, you also can just crack your egg, and you just want to be real careful here. And you're going to let the white fall out into your bowl. Okay, I know it's a little bit gross looking, but it's okay. And then you're going to just put your yellow in your other bowl. We're going to beat our egg yolks. And also, just to tell you, you do not have to have a mixer like this to do this recipe. I don't have a hand mixer. Mine is broken and I haven't replaced it yet. So you could definitely do this with a hand mixer, but I don't have one, so we're gonna use what we have. So I'm gonna put my egg yolks in here. It's gonna get a little bit loud. I'm gonna turn this on and whip these up until they're thick. Okay, so if you'll look in the bowl, you can actually see the difference in the yolks. They're just a little bit thicker. So now we're going to gradually add in our sugar, actually a half a cup of our sugar, and our pumpkin. So I'm going to turn it on, and I'm just going to do that. Now, what you want to do is kind of right halfway in between, maybe you want to stop your mixer, and even if you're hand mixing, you still would probably have to do this. You see how the stuff gathers on the side. You want to make sure you scrape that down, and because you want that to get all good and mixed up. So we're going to turn it on, and we're going to mix it just until the sugar is pretty much dissolved. Okay, this looks about ready. We're going to take this off of here because, like I told you before, I don't have a mixer. So we're going to have to get another bowl. Let's remove this one and we're going to set it aside. Okay, we're going to get another bowl. We're going to attach it. And we're going to put our egg whites into this bowl, the 3 egg whites. And we are going to beat this until first soft peaks form. Here we go. Okay, I think we're at our soft peak stage. So if you'll look in here, when I pull that up, how that little bitty peak is right there. When you take a spoon, see how it's soft. It'll peak, but it falls down. So that's soft. So now what we're going to do, we're going to start it again, and we're going to gradually add our other half a cup of sugar. You definitely want to do this slowly. Okay, I think we are just about there. Now, you can tell, oh yeah, see down in there? I'll show you if you take this off, it's gonna make a mess. Okay, I'm gonna show you this. Swirl it in there. See that? That is a stiff peak. See how it peaks and it stands up on its own? That's what you're looking for. Now, you wanna be careful with this. Treat it gently because you have all this air that you have whipped up in here. And You don't want to lose that, okay? So you want to treat it gently, and you're going to take this and you're going to fold it into your pumpkin mixture, okay? So I'm going to swap bowls here. So we're going to take our egg whites and we're going to gently put them in our pumpkin mixture, and then we're going to fold this together. And what that means is, instead of just going crazy and stirring it, we're going to gently move it around in the bowl so we can get it mixed up without disturbing all that good air that you've whipped up and lightness into those egg whites. So you can see, just very gently, and you know, you just have to be patient, because this is, you know, it takes it a little while to get it all good and mixed up when you have to do it like this, but it's okay. It's gonna eventually come together. And trust me, it is worth it. See, we still have a lot of swirls, and we're not going to completely get rid of all those, but you want it to pretty much be one color. That will tell you that you have mixed it enough, it's combined together enough, and you can go on to the next step. That's looking pretty good right there. And again, you know what? Make sure, look down there in the bottom of your bowl. Make sure you don't have a big chunk of pumpkin stuck down there, and there's not, so we're good. Okay, so that looks really good. Okay, so now we have this good and folded. What we're gonna do is, in a smaller bowl, separate, we've got 3/4 cup of flour. We're gonna add our flour into the bowl, okay? And we're going to add, let me look at my recipe here. We're gonna add 1 teaspoon of baking soda. And I just wanted to show you these really quick. I don't know if any of you have ever seen them or not, but these are Pampered Chef measuring spoons. They're awesome, because how many times have you lost your measuring spoons in your drawer? This is so cool. You can see it's an 1/8 up here, and it goes all the way down to a tablespoon, and they just pop together. They stick together, so you can undo them and use them, and then once they're clean, you just stick them all back together. They snap together, put them in your drawer. I love these things. You know, it's just the little things that make your life so much easier. Okay, so we need 1 teaspoon. Here's my teaspoon. 1 teaspoon of baking soda. We're gonna add that to our flour, okay? Then we're gonna add 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. And you know, I really round off or round up, pile it up, the cinnamon. We love cinnamon, and cinnamon is really good for you. So I always add more than what it calls for. And then we have 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Okay, we're gonna add our salt in there. Okay, and we're going to sift this together real quick just to make sure it's good and mixed up. Then we're gonna fold this into our pumpkin mixture. And we are almost done, okay? So let's put this into our pumpkin mixture, okay? And we are going to fold this in. Again, same technique, takes you a little bit, but just very gently. You do this because you want the batter to cook up very light and airy. You do not want this to be a thick, dense batter, because you're actually going to roll this cake into a roll. So if it was really thick and dense, it would break. Sometimes it still does break a little, but you have a far better chance of it not breaking by doing it like this, with the trying to make it as light and fluffy as you can, airy. See, we still have some white showing through there. Okay, it's about there. Now, what we're gonna do is, we're gonna take our pan, and I'm just gonna put it right here, okay? And we're gonna pour all that into our prepared pan that's been greased and floured, and even the parchment paper has been greased and floured. Okay, let's spread it on here. And you really need a pan like this, as far as, you know, you can't put it on a flat cookie sheet, and you can't put it in a deep cake, like a 13 by 9 cake pan, because you're gonna need these little short sides on it. I love these little spatula things because it can get out every last drop. Okay, now we're going to just very carefully spread this on our pan. Just kind of go over it back and forth, because you want to make sure that this is even. You don't want one side to be way taller than the other side, or the middle to be stuck up. So we're gonna just go over it, make sure it's smooth. And then another little trick you can do, you can just kind of take this and you want to kind of beat that down a little bit on your, just to kind of level it off, get out any air bubbles that might be in there. Okay, so now we're going to stick this in the oven for 13 to 15 minutes. Once again, check it about in 10 minutes, because everybody's oven's different and you do not want it to overcook. Okay, the cake is finished, and in my oven it only took about 12 minutes. So I've got it out. It has to sit and cool for 5 minutes. Once it's cooled for 5 minutes, you want to take a clean towel, okay? And you're going to take your powdered sugar, and you are going to just sprinkle. Woo, I got a little bit too much right there, but powdered sugar, you can't get too much powdered sugar. We are going to sprinkle powdered sugar on here. You know what? I think I'm probably going to just use my hand. Just kind of smear that around good. And that's just going to help keep your cake from sticking to this towel. You know, heard it a million times, your hands, clean hands are your best tool in the kitchen. And that is so true. Okay, if you've noticed, I moved the direction of the towel just because this is the way we're going to roll it up. We're going to roll it up from the short side to the short side. So I went ahead and moved the direction of the towel. Now our cake's been cooling for 5 minutes. So we're going to take this and we're going to put it onto the towel, okay? So be careful, because sometimes this pan's pretty cool, but it could still be hot. Now what I did too was I took a knife and kind of went around the edge just to make sure that I broke away anything that may have been stuck there. So let's just say a prayer that it's going to come out beautifully. And I think it did. Just love it when things come together. Okay, so we have it on the towel. We're going to peel off the paper that you greased and floured. We're going to gently peel this off. And you know what? Let me tell you something. If it doesn't come out like that, if you have a few little pieces that stick, don't worry about it. Pretty much you can fix anything. So let's take that off. So make sure you get all that paper off, because you don't want someone to bite into that later. Now what you're going to do is you're just going to roll this up with using your towel, okay? And you're going to do it very carefully and very gently. You're going to start at the short end, okay? And you're just going to start rolling. Just roll it very carefully. We're going to roll it up like this, and then we're going to leave it just like this, and we're going to let this cool completely. Then we'll come back and we'll put the filling in it. Okay, our cake is all rolled up and it's cooling. So now we're gonna make our filling so that when it's cool, we'll have this ready and waiting and we can put the filling in it, roll it back up, and we'll be done. So I already have in the bowl 8 ounces of cream cheese softened, 2 tablespoons of butter softened, and now we're gonna add 1.5 cups of powdered sugar. This is the good stuff, okay? Now, I'm gonna go ahead and put it in here, and this might be fun when I start the mixer. I'll try to start it really slow, but we'll put 1.5 cups in there, and then we're gonna put 1 teaspoon of vanilla. If I could only have one thing in my kitchen, I think I would, and for as far as spices go, I think I would have to pick this. Oh my goodness, vanilla. Like I was saying about the cinnamon, I usually always kind of pour a little bit more than what it calls for. This calls for a teaspoon of vanilla, so I let it run over just a tad. Now, you do have to be careful when you're baking because that can really mess things up, but this is a filling, so we're good. So we're gonna go ahead, mix this up, and this will be ready to go on our cake. Oh, I almost forgot. Start on low if you have your powdered sugar in there already. Trust me, that can be a mess. Okay, all I'm gonna do is scrape down my sides, and then I'm gonna go ahead and let it mix some more because it still has quite a few clumps in it. So I'm just gonna, you wanna keep those sides scraped down, and we're gonna mix it some more. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm just gonna leave it in this. We'll wait for our cake to cool, and then we'll fill it. Okay, the cake is nice and cooled. So now we're going to unroll it. Let's pull it down. All right, now we're gonna put our filling in there. Now in this case, if you want to leave a little bit in the bowl for later, that's okay. You worked hard, you deserve it. Okay, so now, I have a spreader, but if you don't have one of these, just use a spatula or a knife. Whatever you have on hand will work fine. And you just want to take it, you know, get it pretty close to the edge, but you don't want it so close that when you start folding it up or rolling it up that it all runs out the sides. So I would say about 1/4 of an inch maybe from the side, you should be good. We're gonna just smear all that down. And like I said, you know what? This can look a little intimidating if you've never made one, but trust me, you've seen from the video, it's really not. There's a few steps to it, but it's really not difficult to make. So I challenge you, if you've never made one of these, try it. Just think of how proud your family will be when they see this. It's beautiful when it's on a platter, and then when they bite into it and they know that you made it. Okay, that's that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to roll it back up again, starting on the short end, just very carefully. You want to take it, this time you're not using the towel, okay? So you're just rolling it up. Try to get it even there. Don't put too much pressure on it, just kind of let it, it'll go itself. You just kind of guide it. Roll it up. Okay. Now what we're gonna do is we're just gonna wrap it with saran wrap, and it will be ready to go into the freezer. And all you're gonna do is, once you take this out of the freezer, it's gonna take about 15 minutes of sitting time before you can serve it. So really, you know, when you start your Thanksgiving dinner, you can just make sure it's out of the freezer on your dessert table, and by the time people are ready for dessert, it should be fine. But that's all we're gonna do. We're just gonna take it and wrap it up in some saran wrap and get it in the freezer. And this is another thing to check off the list. We're done. We've gotten 3 of our desserts done. Okay, so I'm gonna move that back a little bit so I can get me some saran wrap. What I'm probably gonna do is go ahead and just do it long ways first. Okay. Kind of roll it forward, or backwards, I guess. Tuck that side under. And I'm gonna roll it back this way. Tuck this side under. Okay. There we go. Now, I didn't quite cover it up, but I'm gonna go over it again and make sure that you pull your saran wrap tight so that we get the air out of there. I think I'm gonna do 2 sheets this way. Put it in there straight. Roll it. Roll that in. The hardest part about this actually is making this and not being able to eat it. That's the hardest part. So, thank you so much for watching this, for sticking with me through the video. And like I said, don't be intimidated. It is well worth it. Make you a pumpkin roll this year.